Oh, no, we're not related at all.
At all.
No, we're not. We're just very close. He's my best friend
Yeah, cool.
Now, who found who?
in the whole wide world.
I found Leah. As a matter of fact, Barry Hankerson, my manager, who's her uncle, told me to go up to Detroit and hear her sing. Once I got up to Detroit, I didn't have to hear her sing because she was glowing.
You've probably heard the stories about how Aaliyah was allegedly given a sedative and carried unconscious onto the plane that killed her after she specifically refused to board it. You've probably heard about how her uncle Barry Hankerson supposedly received $90 million from her death and how he signed a liability agreement just 5 days before she passed. But the question people are really starting to ask now, especially after Nicki Minaj started putting certain things on blast, is did Aaliyah's own family sell her out? Because when you look at the full picture, when you see how her mother Diane allegedly handled the R. Kelly situation, when you notice that Aaliyah always traveled with family because she was scared of flying but was mysteriously alone on the day she died, things stop looking like coincidences and start looking like something much darker. Before we get into all of this, let me give you some background on the family because not a lot of people actually know the full story. Diane Houghton was born January 11th, 1951 in New York, and she's the younger sister of Barry Hankerson, the record producer and label owner. She married Michael Houghton and they had 2 kids, Rashad born in 1977 and Aaliyah born January 16th, 1979. In the beginning, Diane was a stay-at-home mom who was very hands-on with raising her children, while Michael worked in the warehouse business. Aaliyah's talent was discovered early. She used to listen to her mother sing around the house. And when Diane realized her daughter could carry a tune, especially after Aaliyah got cast in her school play for Annie, she decided to take the wheel on getting Aaliyah's career started. And the family had connections because Diane's brother Barry Hankerson was married to Gladys Knight at the time. So it was easy for young Aaliyah to travel with Gladys, watch her perform, and even perform with her from time to time. She learned everything she could from her Aunt Gladys, and eventually she got signed to her Uncle Barry's label, Blackground Records, at just 12 years old. And that's where things started getting messy. Actually, not just messy, deeply disturbing, because once Aaliyah entered the industry, she was surrounded by grown men in ways that should have set off every alarm bell for her family. Once Aaliyah got signed to Blackground Records, she met R. Kelly shortly after. He became the lead songwriter and producer on her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number. And that title alone should tell you something was already wrong. But R. Kelly did way more than just contribute to her career. He entered into what can only be described as a highly inappropriate relationship with a child, and then forged documents to marry her when she was only 15.
That's stupid! Use your common sense.
Kelly broadly denied allegations of abusing women in his interview with Gayle.
How stupid would it be for me to, with my crazy past and what I've been through, right now I just think I need to be a monster and hold girls against their will, chain them up in my basement, and don't let them eat.
Based on reports, she may have even been expecting at the time.
First young girl experience you saw was when he married Aaliyah, correct?
Yes, that was when being a was real to me.
Okay.
You see, or to somebody like, wow, hell no, man. He didn't do this.
And here's the part that makes people question Diane's role in all of this. The 2019 Lifetime documentary Surviving R. Kelly alleged that Aaliyah's parents were in contact with R. Kelly when he married their daughter, and they assured him they wouldn't press charges. Let that sink in for a second. Your teenage daughter gets illegally married to a grown man, and your response is to assure him that he won't face consequences? As a thank you for their cooperation, R. Kelly reportedly sold the rights to his first 3 albums to Aaliyah's family, so they profited from this situation. The marriage was quickly annulled in February 1995, and an NDA was signed between Aaliyah, her parents, and R. Kelly, with everyone agreeing to never talk about it. Aaliyah took that to her grave. She never publicly discussed the relationship. And when background dancers and singers came forward claiming they witnessed inappropriate things between R. Kelly and Aaliyah, Diane allegedly said they were lying and that they didn't even know Aaliyah. Some people even say Diane was the one who convinced Aaliyah to lie about the relationship in interviews.
Where she used to be married to R. Kelly.
She was 15, she wasn't married.
15 years old,
yeah,
right?
Can't be married at 15 to a grown man.
I know, but
so then why would you still listen to him, knowing that they said he married a 15-year-old? Well, that was the issue. That you knew it was illegal to be married to a 15-year-old, and the dude could actually put out a an album that says AJ nothing but a number.
right.
And y'all gonna listen to it and not say a word.
But R. Kelly wasn't the only grown man circling around this teenage girl while her family watched. For a lot of people, it never made sense how Aaliyah's mother allowed her to be around all these men. R. Kelly, Diddy, Jay-Z, Dame Dash, all of these were grown men in their late 20s and 30s around a teenage girl. And then you have people like Timbaland who publicly admitted his attraction to her. In a 2011 episode of E! True Hollywood Story, Timbaland said he was intimately attracted to Aaliyah when they first met. The problem is they were introduced during the creation of her sophomore album, 1 in a Million, which she started recording at 16 years old. Timbaland was 23 at the time, and he just admitted this on camera like it was normal. Aaliyah also attended Diddy's parties. There are photos of her at his 4th of July party on July 2nd, 2000, and in one of them, they're cozied up on a bed together. She was photographed with Diddy multiple times in 2001 during the MTV Movie Awards and at other events. She was always in these circles, always around these men, and her family apparently saw no issue with any of it. And then Nicki Minaj recently shared photos of Jay-Z posing with Aaliyah and Beyoncé from 1996 and 1997, pointing out the ages of everyone in the pictures. She called Jay-Z out directly and wrote, "Imagine if a 30-year-old rapper was out here with a 16-year-old in this day and age, how y'all would have his head on a platter." She said he was hugging and humping on them in broad daylight. Nicki has basically poured gasoline on this whole situation, and now people are going back and looking at everything with new eyes. Which brings us to the day Aaliyah died, and all the things that have never made sense. On August 25th, 2001, Aaliyah died in a plane crash in the Bahamas after filming a music video. She was 22 years old, and from the beginning, the details of this crash have raised more questions than answers. First, the small plane exceeded its maximum weight limit by several hundred pounds, which would have made it much harder to control once it got in the air. Second, the pilot had reportedly faked his license. Third, the pilot was allegedly under the influence of alcohol and other substances at the time. So already you have a disaster waiting to happen. But here's where it gets really disturbing. According to Kathy Iandoli, who wrote the book Baby Girl, better known as Aaliyah, a man named Kingsley Russell, whose family ran a taxi and hospitality business in the Abaco Islands, was with Aaliyah as his stepmother drove her team to the airport. He said that when Aaliyah saw the plane, she refused to get on. She went back to the cab. Someone from her entourage came to ask what was wrong. Aaliyah expressed her concerns about the plane being overweight. At that point, according to this account, she was given a sleeping pill and fell into a deep sleep. Then she was carried onto the plane unconscious. Why would they need to sedate someone and carry them onto a plane they explicitly refused to board? That's not normal. That's not how you treat someone whose instincts are telling them something is wrong. And it raises the question of who made that decision and why. And then there's what happened with her Uncle Barry. Barry Hankerson, Aaliyah's uncle, and the owner of Blackground Records, reportedly received $90 million from her death. And word on the street was that Aaliyah was planning to leave his label once her album dropped. She was about to take her talents elsewhere, which would have been a massive financial blow to Barry and Blackground. But here's the detail that has people really questioning everything. Barry allegedly signed a liability agreement just 5 days before Aaliyah's passing, stating that if anything bad were to happen to her, Blackground Records wouldn't be held responsible. 5 days before she died in a plane crash. Who signs a document like that right before their artist gets on a flight unless they know something might happen? In an interview with Dr. Oz, Barry claimed he had no idea about the R. Kelly situation, which is hard to believe considering R. Kelly was signed to his label and was working closely with his niece. But Barry did throw his own sister under the bus, saying that Diane, Aaliyah's mother, was definitely aware of what was happening between R. Kelly and Aaliyah.
Were you aware of the issues going on with R. Kelly when they were going on?
No, didn't have a clue. Completely ignorant to it.
Do you think anyone in the family was?
Yes. I think my sister knew a lot more than what we thought she knew.
So by Barry's own admission, Diane knew. She knew what was happening to her daughter, and she allowed it to continue. She allegedly took money from R. Kelly as compensation. She allegedly convinced Aaliyah to lie about the relationship. And she allegedly stood by while her daughter was surrounded by predatory men throughout her entire career. And one detail that nobody can explain is why Aaliyah was alone that day. Everyone who knew Aaliyah knew she was terrified of flying. That's why she always traveled with family members.
I remember hopping on this little plane. Aaliyah, she didn't really like the plane that we were going on. over there, she was like, I hate this one. You know what I mean? It's so small. I was like, don't worry.
I know she was nervous. She even told my mom, she called my mom and said, I have to get on this little plane. And my mom was like, maybe you shouldn't. She was like, well, it's not that far. It's just from Miami to the Bahamas. So she got on it, flew there. She was fine. Everything was okay.
Her mother or other relatives would accompany her on flights to help her manage her fear. But on the day she died, she was alone. No family members were with her on that plane. People are asking the obvious question. Did her mother know something was wrong with that flight? Did Diane intentionally stay behind? Because if you've been traveling with your daughter for years because she's scared of flying, why would you suddenly not be there on this particular trip? The one trip where everything went wrong. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe Diane had other obligations that day. But when you combine it with everything else, the R. Kelly cover-up, the money exchanging hands, the liability agreement signed days before, the sedation and forced boarding of the plane, it starts to paint a picture that's hard to ignore. Nicki Minaj has been putting all of this back in the spotlight, calling out Jay-Z and suggesting that sacrifices have been happening in Hollywood. And whether you believe in that or not, she's gotten people digging deeper into what really happened to Aaliyah and what role her family played in all of it. Because the facts are disturbing enough without any conspiracy theories. A teenage girl was illegally married to a predator, and her parents took money instead of pressing charges. She was surrounded by grown men throughout her career while her family watched. She refused to board a plane that was clearly unsafe and was allegedly sedated and carried on anyway. And the people who were supposed to protect her seemed more interested in what she could earn for them than in keeping her safe. Did Aaliyah's family sell her out? Based on what we know, it certainly looks like they prioritized money over her well-being at multiple points throughout her life. Whether that extends to what happened on that plane, we may never know for sure. But the questions aren't going away. And her brother Rashad, who has stayed quiet through all of this, might be the only person left who can tell us the truth about what really happened inside that family. 20+ years later, baby girl still deserves answers, and her fans aren't going to stop asking until they get them.